Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
Listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
At SummerSlam, I'm going to be 15 pounds heavier, and it will all be in gold.
Joe Giammatteo.
I don't know about you guys, but Mildman Marc Mero is reaching Marty Jannetty status for me.
We're seeing him every week.
I want 1 week without him, please.
Behold the cuck of the wild. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett. We're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw at a time. But first, a quick shout out to our new listeners in Bulgaria, Bosnia, and Herzegovina. Thank you for tuning in. Good to have you here with us. Stick around and get all of the mild man you can handle. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on July 29th, 1996. This Raw was recorded at the Key Arena in Seattle, Washington, and features Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then, let's get into it. Last week on Raw, a vicious attack by this intruder. Who is he? Why has he ruptured Ahmed Johnson's kidney? We'll find out tonight on Monday Night Raw. But no more fucking around to start things off. We're going to move straight into our first match of the night. Psycho Sid defeats Justin Hawk Bradshaw with Uncle Zebekiah by disqualification in 45 seconds. I loved Sid getting the crowd pop here almost as much as Sid loves the baby oil. Sid came down the entryway. I had to adjust my screen contrast because he was reflecting every possible fucking photon that was coming his way. At the start of things here, our competitors were standing nose to nose, and we got a great view of Sid just an inch or two taller than Bradshaw. But then the slugfest begins, and this didn't last very long as Sid finally gets a series of kicks into Bradshaw's gut, whips Bradshaw to the ropes, and then catches Bradshaw for a choke slam, which looked great. But that's it for the match, because Bradshaw didn't like the choke slam. He goes and brings in the bull rope and hits Sid with it. Bradshaw and Uncle Zebekiah then start a double team on Sid, everyone looking pretty good here, the work and the selling. Just as they think they have Sid beat, he ducks an attempted clothesline using that bull rope, and Sid comes back with a clothesline of his own. Uncle Zebekiah taking a nice little bump there along with Bradshaw. But the crowd loves it, and so the crowd gets some more. Sid hits Bradshaw with a great-looking powerbomb. Great especially because of how big of a person Bradshaw is. And then it's Uncle Zebekiah's turn, taking a powerbomb as well. The camera angle on Sid's face as we close out this segment was great. Guys, I didn't think I would be as up on a 45-second match as I am, but I loved this. Everyone looked good in it. The crowd energy was infectious, and this is doing a great job of making Sid look good. I thought this was all around a great way to kick off our episode. Joe, please, what did you think of it?
I completely agree with you, and it's surprising. 45 seconds. I mean, what can you do in 45 seconds? But pretty good start to the show. The crowd is exploding for Sid. He is definitely the replacement for Ultimate Warrior. He is having a 45-second match. The crowd loves it. You know, we get sort of a strange DQ finish, but like you said, I think everybody looked good here. All three individuals involved, Sid, Bradshaw, and Zebekiah. I think they all looked pretty good here. So yeah, great way to kick off the show. And Sid is definitely, Babyface Sid is still a crowd favorite.
Yeah, we're going to all three be in agreement. It's a shocker. This is one of the under a minute matches that we kind of rolled our eyes about when we heard what Sid was doing, but they made it work. From, Sid himself to Bradshaw and Uncle Zeb. Everyone here pulled it together and put on a very entertaining 46 seconds of a wrestling match. And this pop that Sid is getting is something else. I mean, he is fully over. Babyface Sid is a thing, and the crowd loves it. And so did I. I mean, these power bombs look good. And as you both pointed out, just a really great way to continue to make Sid look unstoppable. Because up until this point, Bradshaw has been kind of a bully in the ring with most people. So I enjoyed every moment of it.
Yeah, great point there. What better way to get Sid over than to have him take on somebody that almost towers over just about anybody else in the WWF here. And the other thing that I really noticed about this, in contrast to the last time we saw Sid, it's like night and day, the way that he's interacting with the crowd. And I don't mean that as in like there's a lack of it or there's more of it going on here. It's just that angry heel Sid interacted in a different way than babyface Sid does. And they're both psycho. I mean, he's still sticking with the weird facial gestures and saying nonsense and stuff like that, but there's just something about babyface Sid where he looks like he's having fun doing it. It's a fun kind of insanity, as opposed to asshole insanity before. Been very good to see. Something else that's usually pretty good to see, Sunny. She's going to be backstage here. And we're going to find out that Sunny manages an individual now named Farouk Assad. That's the gentleman that we saw lacerating Ahmed's kidney or whatever the hell that was Vince was trying to pitch at the start of the show. Sunny cuts a little promo here, shitting on Ahmed Johnson, with Farouk standing there next to her. And I just about shit myself when Sunny says that Farouk is the champion of the 90s. That's right after saying that he's a modern-day gladiator. And you could tell that Farouk wasn't pleased. He looked fairly unhappy waiting for his turn to speak. And I don't mean unhappy in a gimmick way. I mean unhappy like in an existential way. The promo that he cuts is good during the parts where he's just talking smack, but the parts where he tries to defend Sunny are less than good. This was a short segment, but it was our first real introduction to Farouk here in the WWF. Joe, what did you think of it?
I think that it looks extremely uncomfortable. I think that Farouk looks very uncomfortable, and even Sunny just doesn't fit. It's even more glaring to me that Sunny should have been with more of like a Shawn Michaels, like a pretty boy type athlete, more than someone like Farouk, who is a big bruiser type guy. I think it just looks more obvious that they just should have put her with people that are more like her in that pretty boy look.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really mind Farouk's promo. I thought it did the job here, but he does look uncomfortable. And not just in, having Sunny as his valet here, but uncomfortable wearing this ridiculous outfit that we highlighted last week. After last week, I kind of thought about it, and I started thinking the Gladiator, whenever they gave the idea to the costume department, it was like, we're going for a gladiator. My only guess at this point is we're dealing with the mid-90s. The person thought American Gladiator. And because that's kind of what they look like, the outrageous, colorful outfits that the American gladiators used to wear on that show. So I don't know if maybe that's where they were taking their inspiration, but it still looks really bad.
Yeah, 100% agreed on that. Something that kind of clicked into place in my mind whenever I was watching this is whenever Sunny drops the line that he's a modern day gladiator. And it made me think back to last week where, Ryan, I'm pretty sure it was you said that he's like a Techno Team 2000 gladiator.
Yeah, that was me.
and doesn't that kind of fit now with this modern day gladiator thing? This kind of look, the chrome and the teal, that's what the WWF thinks makes a modern wrestler. I mean, that's basically the same as what Techno Team's shit was,
Yep.
So hopefully that just goes away very, very quickly, because I don't want to see Farouk looking uncomfortable. He's pretty fucking awesome, and this is not the best way to start off with him.
If we could move on from it, it would be better for everyone involved.
Yes, exactly. Well, as we're coming away from these promos, we're going to hear the music for our next match. Vader with Jim Cornette defeats Marc Mero with Sable by pinfall in 6 minutes and 23 seconds. Vader comes out like a badass, and then Marc Mero comes out like a cuck, the camera giving the classy Sweet Sable as much camera time as she can get. Once again, the mild man is an afterthought in this entrance, and we're going to get Cornette joining commentary for this match. From the first tie-up to the corner, I liked Vader not giving a clean break and giving a good grunt whenever he goes in to punch the mild man. And then in the following corner, Vader just spits in Mero's face. That was something else that tickled me quite a bit. Something that didn't, though, was the attempted crucifix. That was terrible. To her credit, Sable is acting more and more like a valet. She's becoming more animated. She's less robotic. She's cheering for the mild man like she should be. But then Vader hit Mero with a kind of like reverse power bomb. I'm not sure what that was called, but like he pancakes Mero flat on his face in the middle of the ring. Vader was roaring the whole time while he was performing the move. That was some good shit, pal. And Mero tried fighting out of the corner after that. Vader no-sold all of it, and it looked like the punches got a little stiff from Vader after that. After some punishment, the mild man was doing a pretty good job of selling exhaustion and being punch drunk. And that's a good chunk of just this match in its entirety. Vader just beating the shit out of Mero. And of course, Vader had to take a moment to say stuff to Sable, prompting Vince to wonder out loud if Vader has some kind of infatuation with Sable like Goldust does, because of course Sable is the sole driver of storytelling here. And to highlight that fact, just as Vader is talking to Sable, this is what apparently inspires the mild man to rally, coming back fast and hard. It's too bad he couldn't do that for his own sake whenever he was getting the shit beat out of him. It was very nice of Vader to participate in these series of moves. They were all of the Mero favorites: clothesline, out of the ring, suicide dive, followed up by the mild man hissy fit. And then in a hilarious botched spot, Mero attempts to do a leap over pinning takedown that Vader ducked, and Vader ducking that caused Mero to overshoot Vader. Rather than move on to a different spot, Vader just duck walks backwards far enough to put himself in the correct position before then celebrating his cunning reversal and sitting, or at least attempting to sit on Mero's head. That's unsuccessful because Mero gets out of the way just in time. Whenever Mero goes to try to leap from another corner, Vader catches him into a power slam reversal, getting the pin and the 3 count there. Cornette, on the mic, says he wants to go face-to-face with Jose Lothario at some point. Just as Vader comes over and roars in Vince McMahon's face across the announce table. That was pretty fun. And that's where this segment ends. It really hit me tonight how terribly they're booking Mero with Sable. And I know that's kind of an extreme thing to say considering how much we've shit-talked him almost every time we see him on our screens. But this match highlighted for me just how fucking one-dimensional the mild man Marc Mero is. I just, with Sable being here and this whole, he can't fight for himself. He only gets worked up when somebody starts messing with Sable. I don't think we're going to get a fair representation of what Mero can do until he gets out from under Sable's top-heavy shadow. This match was just a big symbol of that for me. Ryan, please, what did you think of it?
Yeah, pretty boring. We start off, and again, the cameraman's timing, as Vince says, the 1-2 punch of the WWF. Couldn't have been any better. I also got a good laugh from Cornette, since he was helping out on commentary here. He says about Vader that there's nothing clean about Vader. I immediately think about the stories you hear about Leon's hygiene habits on the road and how he refused to wash his ring gear. Cornette had to be ribbing about that when he made that comment. Then Mero starts off and he pulls off the Austin stitch-inducing move, and I love that Cornette pointed that out, that he was going to injure everyone in the WWF with that move. But lackluster stuff, that crucifix you pointed out, my God, was that bad. Some of the punching looked good, and I do agree. I think it was because Vader decided to just start really punching Mark, and I think they just got pissed and started having a punching match in the middle of the ring. There's a spot where Mark starts to rally, and I really rolled my eyes when Cornette, he flips out, and he's saying he's trying to kill himself and take Vader with him. This guy's a madman. He's a wild man. And then he almost like slowly looks at the camera like, yeah, Vince forced me to say that. Did you guys notice that look that he gave the camera when he gave that miserably overdone line? But I didn't mind the finish. I thought Vader catching the mild man midair into the slam was a pretty decent looking finish, and Vader himself didn't look bad in this match, but couldn't agree more that Mark just continues to earn that mild man name.
I think Sable looks fantastic, but that's about where it ends with her here. She still has that barbed wire look to her that was popular in 96.
Yeah, good call.
And they're definitely planting some seeds here, you can tell. I mean, she's already kind of upstaging Mark, but not quite yet as much as is going to happen in the future, but you can tell there's some seeds being planted there. And this was like all other mild man matches, just not very good. Same moves over and over. You guys mentioned the move that he put on Austin where he sliced Austin's mouth open. Every time he does that, I cringe. Like, he does it in every match, and it's just so cringy and sloppy. Why do we have to get a mild man match every fucking week? You know, because of that, I'm almost like not invested at all in this match, because Vader's the type of guy that you want to see go up against a huge babyface. And I don't give a shit about the mild man. If Vader was like maybe pushing Sable around a little bit, or like maybe going after Sable, then it would be more interesting, I think. But Marc Mero, I have no investment in him as a babyface at all.
We get them because he's part of that 1-2 punch.
Yeah. Completely agreed. And I just, again, I can't help but think that we're just not going to get a fair look at Mero anytime soon. And I'm not saying that it'll be any better whenever we do. It's just trying to objectively judge his performance here while he's got these two very large things chained to his ankle just isn't going to work. Speaking of something that's probably not going to work, let's go back to last Monday at WWF headquarters.
Brother.
Clarence Mason was there trying to persuade Gorilla Monsoon to let Mason's client join the WWF. And we did talk about it on our episode last week, but I had to just chuckle again where Monsoon clearly states, and Mason agrees with, the fact that this person was caught with illegal firearms, controlled substances, and spent time in jail as a result. All while that person is just standing there drinking it in. But that's all we get at this point. It's time to go to the Stridex biggest slam of the week. That just happens to be Sid powerbombing Bradshaw and Zebekiah earlier in the evening. And that was followed by the Olympic WWF commercial that I'm not quite a fan of. And again, goddamn, speaking of things I'm not a fan of, we come back to the ring and see that Jose Lothario is there. Jim Cornette. Vince McMahon is between them and ready to get the interview going. The bottom line of this is that Jim Cornette has been doing some checking. I'm doing the air quotes symbols around that because there's no real checking going on here. He's just telling a story. He's checking as to why Jose started showing up out of nowhere. And Shawn Michaels just so happens to be watching from backstage in the split screen as Cornette cuts this promo/interview. Cornette really tears into it here, basically just laying out the entire recent history of Jose Lothario and Shawn Michaels. Eventually, after Cornette is done reminding us of that upcoming championship match between Vader and Michaels, Cornette crosses some kind of line, I guess, by calling Shawn Michaels trash. The rest of the shit that he was saying wasn't that bad, I guess, but calling Michaels trash was just what really did it. The piped-in crowd noise was thick as hell here as Lothario grabbed Cornette by the lapels and rattled off a string of words at Cornette. I have no idea what they were. I could barely hear them, couldn't understand them. After he lets go and starts to walk away, Cornette tries to go after Lothario with his back turned, but Lothario sensed it and punched Cornette. And as we're exiting this ring scene, there's a quick cut to where Shawn Michaels was standing backstage, and instead of Shawn Michaels standing there, we've got Shawn Michaels laying there with some fingers down the gullet as Mankind is crouched over him, applying the mandible claw, squealing. The officials are there trying to pull Mankind off of Michaels, and we cut to a commercial. There's a lot to go over in this segment, some things more substantial than others. So Ryan, what did you think of the flashback to Clarence Mason, Mankind putting down Shawn Michaels, and everything in between?
Knowing that it's Crush really,
Brother,
it really ruins things. I mean, not like this segment was anything all that great, but still, just knowing that this is all a lead up to Crush just really puts a damper on things. The biggest slam of the week, I feel like we got a name change there.
They left out the SummerSlam part, yeah.
Well, I thought it had a different name when it was the Karate Fighters and whatever else. I didn't think it was biggest slam of the week. I feel like it had a different name. But anyway, this week it's something that just happened like 10 minutes ago. So yeah. I thought that was kind of funny.
So the rest of the show is worthless.
Yeah.
This was the highlight.
There's no big slams to come. And that includes this interview segment that we're going to get, which, I mean, Cornette does a good enough job of wasting time here, but that's all this was. It was a big, long-winded waste of time to have Jose Lothario confront Jim Cornette, kind of, and then they have a brief hit between each other and it's done. Unfortunately, I think this is just setting up more to come between them, so that's unfortunate. But the highlight of everything here was the very end, seeing Mankind squeal as he gives Shawn Michaels the mandible claw, and Shawn is just left there paralyzed and helpless.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the stuff before the interview. But yeah, I noted that same thing about the slam of the week. I thought, well, I guess the rest of this show is trash. Because,
right.
That's the highlight. The interview with Jim Cornette and Jose Lothario for me was I was just so confused during the entire thing. About 20 seconds into Jim Cornette's ranting and raving, he lost me. I just mentally checked out. I thought, I have no clue what the fuck he's talking about. He's just going on and came off as a little bit annoying to me. Jose just mumbling shit. I don't know what he said. Another punch to Jim Cornette. This is like the second or third time. I don't know. Yeah. It's not really that exciting or funny anymore to me. I want to see more confrontation between Vader and Shawn. I don't give a shit about Jose and Jim. I saw they showed Shawn Michaels backstage, but I had no clue who that was that Mankind had in the mandible claw. I thought it was like some fucking random person when it happened. And then I was like, oh, that's right. It was Shawn. Like, the whole thing was just so confusing to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, why is Mankind there? Unless, I mean, I guess they're maybe setting up for something later, but why? You know, because we have SummerSlam coming up with a boiler room with The Undertaker, and Shawn's going up against Vader.
Wait, did you say boiler room?
Yeah. Something that appears to look like a boiler room of some
It
sort.
might be a boiler room. I think it's a boiler room.
So, yeah, I mean, just confused is my feeling towards the whole thing.
Yeah, Joe, I had the same thing going on at first, and I actually had to go back and edit my notes because I had it marked as just some random official in the back that he was applying the.
Yeah, they never said who it was. And I mean, they came back from commercial and said it was him, but I was like, who the fuck is that? Like, I can't tell. The camera work wasn't the greatest, and with Lawler being on commentary, he was just not really talking. So
yeah, and I can't help but wonder just what the hell or who the hell came up with Cornette and Lothario like this. Like, I get Vader isn't all that great on the mic and he needs the mouthpiece. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But Shawn Michaels really isn't that bad on the microphone. He's not the best necessarily. He's good in, short bursts as opposed to something long form like Cornette can get into. But I don't get it. I don't get Jose Lothario in this at all. Like, his one appearance with Shawn Michaels in San Antonio, that was understandable because, hometown crowd, blah, blah, blah. But he's like the damn clap. He just keeps coming back.
He's just out of place, too. He just looks so out of place.
Well, especially in this interaction, because you have... the whole point of this was to remind us and keep setting up Shawn Michaels versus Vader at SummerSlam. But in order to do that, and this is no judgment on the man himself, but he barely speaks English. Because of that, we have Cornette going off on a tangent for this entire time. Lothario only got 6 words in at that. We couldn't understand them. And it just, I don't know. This wasn't so much of an interview or confrontation so much as it was just a storytelling rant. Well, we're going to come back from that aforementioned commercial to ringside and our next match. The British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, with Owen Hart, defeats Henry O. Godwinn with Hillbilly Jim by pinfall in 7 minutes and 49 seconds. While we're doing entrances, we get a brief video package from Superstars, where Aldo Montoya defeated Jerry the King Lawler and dedicated the victory to Jake Roberts. What an unfortunate sentence to have just uttered. Aldo's backstage here, jockstrap and all, and he accepts a rematch challenge from Lawler. It's looking like we're going to be treated to that match on Raw next week. All in all, we spent way too much time in a split screen going over this, even after the bell is rung. But we get the great news that Owen Hart's joining commentary for this match, so that's good stuff. Owen was instantly hilarious, responding to threats from Hillbilly Jim in a very dry tone, saying that Hillbilly just smells way too bad and Owen just wants to provide his expertise and be left alone to do it. But then we get a text update across the bottom of the screen. It was like a breaking news chyron, scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. Sunny is going to be live in the AOL auditorium tomorrow night, celebrating her status as the most downloaded person in AOL history up to that point. But that's just a distraction from the match. The match starts off great. 2 big powerhouses getting into some great looking tie-ups. And I don't know if I'm just biased here, but once again, this just comes across as a great brawl. The work here was looking tight and stiff in places. The Bulldog and Henry both looked like they were laying it in. Some extra good news is that we'll get Owen Hart and Savio Vega at SummerSlam, if I understood that correctly. Did you guys hear that as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I actually did not hear it, but that is great news.
I was pretty stoked to get that. Godwinn reversing the Bulldog's suplex into a suplex of his own looked good. And just as Godwinn was going to go for the slop drop, Owen got up and distracted Godwinn by removing Godwinn's slop bucket and dumping it on the floor, which I thought was a pretty poor distraction, but it was enough so that the Bulldog could come up from behind and land a running power slam on Godwinn that looked great. The impact in the ring there, it looked like once they hit the ring, the tension of the ring bounced them up a good 3 or 4 inches up off the mat before they landed for the pin and the 3 count. I liked this match. The work looked solid. Whether or not these guys were really laying it in doesn't matter because it looked like they were laying it in, and that's the point. Joe, what did you think of this match?
I thought the match was average. I didn't think it was that great. I mean, it is pretty much what you said it was. It's just 2 big brawlers going at it here. And the ending, I hated the ending so much that Owen just dumps a bucket of slop on the floor and that's enough to distract Henry Godwinn. Like, come on. To me, that's just a little bit cheap. I wanted something better than that if you're going to distract Henry Godwinn. So yeah, I thought the match was average. Some other things, the ticker telling us that Sunny is celebrating herself as the most downloaded celebrity or whatever. Once again, I have to remind everyone
that's a work.
Well, it is, but the WWF is trying to market this woman as a heel, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
the fans are absolutely rabid for this woman, foaming at the mouth, but we're going to make her a heel. There was also a kid wearing a Smashing Pumpkins Zero t-shirt in the crowd.
I missed that.
Towards the front.
So did I.
That was nice. And I actually did enjoy Owen on commentary on this one. I thought he added a little bit to it, and I enjoyed that.
So unfortunately, things in this match started off with Aldo and Jerry the King Lawler, us recapping a match that they had, and then we start with a split screen of Montoya, and I could see why he doesn't last all that long. This promo that he gives, I mean, the King pretty much takes up the entire time, and Montoya comes back with basically, well, we'll see next week. It looks like he's getting a push here. I'm sure it's going to last a good week or two. The match started, and I agree with you, Bartlett, in that I thought these were just two big guys kind of looking good together. It looked like a good old-fashioned brawl, starting with that good shoulder check that Godwinn gave to Bulldog, and the way Bulldog just slammed himself to the mat to sell it. I thought it was a good way to start things off, and then we go to Owen on commentary, and a lot of it was just really interesting. So we have Owen calling his brother a quitter, and I like that part. I also liked him saying that he's probably going to have to wear that cast for a couple more months at least.
He sounded very genuine. He wasn't his normal, like, whiny heel self. Yeah.
But where I'm going to differ from you two is I absolutely loved the finish, only because I thought it was hilarious that the distraction that could end this match is he didn't even really throw it. Owen went over and basically tipped over the slop bucket. Godwinn couldn't even have seen it from where his angle was at, but that was enough to distract him completely, enough to set up Bulldog for the power slam and the victory. So to me, I thought it was almost a joke, like it was a try at comedy, and for me it worked, but I don't know. It sounded like you guys didn't really enjoy it as much as I did, but I didn't mind it at all.
Maybe Owen knew what was in that bucket.
Yeah.
Maybe he was supposed to throw it, but he knew what was in that bucket and said, yeah, no, I'm just going to tip it. Do everybody a favor and just tip it over.
Well, that's why Henry was so angry that Owen tipped it over, is Henry knew how much work so many men put into filling that bucket. Let's get away from that bucket, and let's take a look at a man setting an American record, that record being a 903-pound deadlift. My God. My balls exploded just watching this. This, of course, was super heavyweight American power lifter Mark Henry. And he was there doing the deadlift. Pretty sure he was going through qualifications for the 96 Olympics. And we got a nice flashback to March 11th, 1996, when Mark Henry power slammed Jerry Lawler. While we're getting set up for our next match, we're going to take a look at some Coliseum video exclusive footage. This was good shit, but in a creepy, very creepy way. Goldust is there in the boiler room with Mankind after the shenanigans of the Goldust Undertaker match from the International Incident pay-per-view. Mankind is there rambling in the way that he does, dropping some Mankind gold while petting Goldust's blonde wig and calling the wig mommy, while Goldust is petting Mankind. Goldust was visibly in pain and still roughed up from the match. His makeup was still all messed up, and he was wincing and cringing as though he were still mortally injured. As we move through this segment, Mankind ends up just losing his shit. He starts beating his own head off of that locker-type thing that Goldust was laying on, and ends up finishing it all up with, "Have a nice day." Joe, please give us your thoughts on Mark Henry and then this extra Coliseum tidbit.
Well, I mean, Mark Henry, just watching that footage, my God. This man would just destroy everybody. Unfortunately, his first year or two is not going to be very good, but I'm still a Mark Henry fan, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in the ring later after the Olympics. And yeah, you're right. This Goldust and and Mankind thing was one of the creepiest, just most bizarre and deranged things that we've ever seen. It was just so strange.
The Mark Henry thing, I mean, Bartlett, I said the same thing. When I saw him deadlift close to 1,000 pounds, I just said, by God. And that was the only response I could have to such a feat. And then this creepy ass footage from, I don't know, it looked like a tool room or something in this arena that they were at.
Some sort of boiler room, maybe?
Perhaps.
Vince says boiler room at least 13 times. This footage, it reminded me of something from not necessarily the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even the second one, but like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4 or something is like what this scene looked like. Just creepy, weird, and bizarre, but in a fantastic way. And I loved it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And let's go now into our final match of the night. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeats The Undertaker with Paul Bearer by countout in approximately 10 minutes and 2 seconds. That's an estimate because they rang the bell while we were at a commercial break, so don't hold me to that number. Starting this off, Austin is there in his black leather vest, ready to go with the black trunks and black boots. Things are coming together nicely, as we've mentioned before. And after The Undertaker comes down and The Undertaker is getting his coat off, we get an extra view now of Mankind on the floor of what appears to be some kind of room filled with, I guess, boiler equipment. I'm not quite sure exactly.
You might even call it a boiler room.
My God.
Mankind is there on the floor talking to himself, and then we cut to another commercial. In the ring, Austin wanting to shake The Undertaker's hand was just weird to see. I get that Austin is supposed to be a dastardly heel here, and I don't know.
He's got a Van Dyke.
It didn't fit. It didn't look good. But once the work got going, it looked good. It's still startling for me to see Austin selling so fast. Like a prime example of this, The Undertaker was wrenching Austin's arm in a hold. And, Austin would make it up to his feet. And whenever The Undertaker would wrench the hold, Austin was just down, back to his knees, fast as hell. I don't know if I may be misremembering the way things were later on as Austin became more popular, but I don't remember Austin working this fast. Maybe it has something to do with physical injuries later on down the line. I'm not sure, but it kept going because the next note I have is that the speed of this match was just impressive from both of these guys. Austin, I don't remember being all this fast. And then The Undertaker's whole thing is that he's the undead juggernaut. He doesn't need to move fast because you can't kill him because he's already dead.
Yeah, he's the Mike Myers. Run as fast as you want, but he's still going to be behind you.
Exactly. Some of the exchanges here at the beginning of this match, they were lightning fast, and it made it feel like there was an urgency to the match that it gave it a greater level of appreciation for me. And it was also great hearing commentary talk about how much more aggressive The Undertaker has become. Again, the urgency in the match, the speed, there's almost a viciousness to how fast The Undertaker is moving and laying in his moves, and it just made me kind of sit back and think about how much Mankind and the way that Mankind has been affecting The Undertaker is really helping Taker get to just new levels and new dimensions of his character that he wouldn't have been able to get to with anybody else. It was surprising to see Austin give a backwards kick into The Undertaker's crotch. That's not something that is usually used against The Undertaker for whatever reason.
He's got dead balls.
They exploded watching that Mark Henry video. The Undertaker tying Austin up in the ropes. That was also something that you just generally don't see up to this point. That's a hint of that more aggressive Undertaker that Mankind is helping to create. The body slam on Austin looked great. And then there's a split screen of Mankind wandering around in some kind of room. I'm not sure what exactly. There's pipes and everything there. Kind of looked like maybe valves and steam, perhaps, but
certainly not a boiler room, though.
I don't know. I mean, they might have mentioned that. I must have missed it. This is going into another commercial break, and there's a Stridex commercial there for the SummerSlam sweepstakes. Send your original birth certificate and a utility bill with your name on it to Stamford, Connecticut. Back in the ring, Austin has control for a quick minute until The Undertaker starts to rally. Austin's able to reverse that, though, with some rope work into a pile driver. Austin goes up to the top corner to attempt, I'm guessing what was a dive or a clothesline, but The Undertaker is there to catch him and do a super choke slam. That being a choke slam off the top turnbuckle. That looked fucking great. Something else you don't really see all that often. Austin damn near got full rotation in midair. Just as The Undertaker is getting ready to give Austin a tombstone, Mankind is visible in the entryway. And Undertaker drops Austin like a sack of potatoes, immediately goes after Mankind. They fight up the entryway, and this is where The Undertaker draws the count out, giving Austin the victory. But The Undertaker comes back to the ring just as Austin was declared the winner. The Undertaker hits that tombstone that he started to set up earlier, and as the ring is bathed in purple, Vince McMahon is in there to get some words from the dead man.
What about the Boiler Room Brawl against Mankind?
Undertaker gets very Attitude Era here, saying that it's time for the Reaper to enter the Serpent's lair, and he finishes it up with Rest in Peace as we fade to black. This was a pretty strong finish to our episode. Ryan, what did you think of our final match and the way that Raw ended tonight?
Yeah, I agree. Real strong ending to Raw, and the crowd went ape shit for The Undertaker. And this has been a couple times tonight that this crowd has really came to life and made just the sound of what was happening in the arena appropriate. And they do that for The Undertaker's entrance here. They were happy to see him. And it was good to see Stone Cold. We talked about last week. He's got the black leather vest on. Excited to see that. And then they show this footage of Mankind rocking back and forth in this arena's boiler room. But this arena must be fairly new because this boiler room is very modern, clean, and clinical looking.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really fit the dark and dingy look of a boiler room brawl that you would expect. I thought that was kind of funny. But Mankind does look absolutely insane. The way he is screaming at the top of his lungs at the end of it was pretty great. But once this match started, really good-looking stuff. I mean, like you pointed out, the quickness that this match had kind of shocked me. I wasn't expecting it. You know, we also have mentioned before that we've got Stone Cold still playing this chicken shit heel, even though he now has the vest on and things. But it's kind of interesting to see him still begging off people and calling for timeouts. And I think he nailed The Undertaker in the balls on like at least 3 occasions during this match. So, I mean, you know, he's really into that character, but that doesn't matter because these two put together one hell of a match. Stone Cold does his stomp a mud hole in the corner on The Undertaker, and he gives his second rope flying elbow. And that choke slam, the super choke slam, he does like a full rotation over The Undertaker's head while he slams Austin down. This is one of the best choke slams I think I've seen out of The Undertaker in a long time. And then I thought it ended really good too. The way Undertaker made a beeline for Mankind once he saw him. It was like that match just didn't matter anymore, and he just dropped Austin and went after Mankind. He comes back in at the end to give the crowd what they want and finally apply the tombstone pile driver to Austin even after the match. The promo, again, you pointed out, was a solid promo. Time for the Reaper to go into the Serpent's lair. Great line from The Undertaker, and altogether an extremely strong way to close out this Raw, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, you have 2 of the greatest WWE superstars of all time in this match. If anyone said that these were their 1 and 2, I would not argue with them. Mm-hmm. Then you got Mankind, too, and he's no slouch involved in this a little bit. So, yeah, the match was great, and I said it I think in our last pay-per-view recap about how guys like Mankind and Austin add a few extra elements into a lot of these matches, and that's part of the reason why they're so good. And Bartlett, you touched on a lot of that too. Austin giving the low blow to the Undertaker. He countered the rope walk. Like, when do we ever see that? When Undertaker does the rope walk, he hits it.
I think that was ball hit number 2.
Yeah. Yeah. So just adding those elements is something that makes Austin great. Lawler actually used the term stomping a mud hole during this match too, which I noticed. So, he throws in his signature stuff too, which is nice. Austin. This match was amazing. It's kind of a shame that Mankind interfered a little bit, but you kind of expect it. The thing that was annoying was Vince kept fucking talking about it the entire match. Like, is Mankind gonna make an appearance?
Gee, I wonder, Vince.
Yeah, just shut up and let me enjoy this match. The promo at the end was nice too. But another thing that I want to say is I love it when people really put over the tombstone. And Austin did that here. He got Undertaker got Austin up in the tombstone, and really Austin and Shawn Michaels are two guys that I remember doing this very well. They get up in the tombstone, and Austin's like flailing his legs, like no, please no. And then he gets the tombstone, and he gives like a little cough while he's laying on the mat. Just that tombstone just completely put him out. And I love it when guys do that. And, obviously super professionals like Austin and Michaels can do that very well.
And, Joe, like you pointed out a couple weeks ago, this is in a couple years a WrestleMania headlining match. And you can see why. I mean, these guys just fucking go all out in there.
Yep.
Yeah, it was, again, just a really great way to end what was overall, a pretty good episode. So I've been looking forward to talking about this now with you guys. Let's take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you go first, please?
Yeah, there was a lot of content on this episode, a lot of different superstars that we got to see, but I got to go with Steve Austin versus The Undertaker match as my highlight. And low light for me is just the Mildman Marc Mero. I'm sick of it. I need at least a week off from this. I feel like it's been like 9 weeks in a row we've had to watch him.
Yeah, I'm going to be in 100% agreement with you. Highlight the Undertaker-Austin match for every reason we just covered a few minutes ago. And the low light, just like you, Joe, the Mildman himself, not the match with Vader, just Marc Mero and how much he brings down an episode. And I'm tapping. I want out.
I can't wait for Bartlett to give his end of show recap and say that we're going to see Marc Mero next week.
No, you do. You'll get a break.
Okay.
You'll get a break. We'll wait until we get there. So for my highlights and lowlights, there really weren't a whole lot here. Like I said earlier, I can't, as much as I would love to, I don't think I can fairly give Mero the low light here just because of just everything going on with him. It's impossible for him to even try to be good under the circumstances. But if I had to be a nitpicking dickbag here, it's the news that we're getting a program between Jerry Lawler and Aldo Montoya. I'm sorry, but I don't want Jerry Lawler in the ring. I just don't want it.
Especially with Aldo Montoya.
He hasn't, with the exception of Bret Hart, he hasn't been in the, like, none of these programs have been good. They have all sucked. And even the one with Bret Hart, I hate to admit, but just please, for the love of God, just keep him on commentary. My highlight was the Coliseum exclusive Mankind promo with Gold Dust. That was just fucking out there, man. I loved it.
The true highlight for everyone is that Crush is out of jail.
Yes, we didn't mention that because it was just a given.
Yeah. That's a universal. All right. Well, Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around July 29th, 1996 for us?
Yes, I do. Some news from the Wrestling Observer. Dave Meltzer pointed out that the British Bulldog tonight in his match did not have Diana Hart or Jim Cornette with him. He had Owen, and that was it. So maybe the start of something new for the British Bulldog.
Come on, Davey.
Some sad news. The eccentric Herb Abrams, a promoter of the UWF, passed away on July 23rd, 1996 from cardiac failure. That was one of my favorite Dark Side of the Ring episodes.
Yeah, same here.
Herb Abrams was one crazy son of a bitch. So rest in peace, Herb. I mentioned it last week, the Iron Sheik might be coming in as a manager. Well, Dave is reporting now that the Iron Sheik will be brought back as a coach as opposed to a manager for a new character from the Middle East. So that is something to look forward to. The WWF has officially severed all ties with Warrior University and the Warrior comic book. We hardly knew ye. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Vader is said to be down to 360 pounds from 410 pounds.
A slim 360.
Yeah, I couldn't tell at all.
That's 50 fucking pounds. Yeah, I didn't notice, but that's the word on the street. There's also rumors flying regarding Too Cold Scorpio coming to the WWF.
Nice. Some flash funk for us.
Yeah, but nothing confirmed yet, so don't get too excited for your flash funk.
Okay.
And that is all.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW, just to add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know how much cooler they would be if they became Rawheads like you and me. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, Joe, I had to throw this in there just for you. We're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on August 5th, 1996, with matches featuring Marty Jannetty of the New Rockers. Marty Jannetty and the New Rockers. So
no.
Leaf will be there with him in the ring.
Oh, good.
He takes on Marc Mero
Oh.
in a 60-minute Iron Man match.
We're also going to have a match with Jerry Lawler, as we found out earlier, and there is going to be an 11-man battle royale that I'm pretty sure Marc Mero is going to be in.
Jesus fucking Christ.
The 1-2 punch.
Yep.
Next week is not looking good.
Yeah, if anybody wants to just let the litter box build up for the next week, just, heads up.
Way to make sure everyone out there skips our next episode.
We just earned the Eastern Bloc in Europe, and we're going to lose it again. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.